It's quite remarkable how slow shutter cam has been with us now for over a decade. And in that time it's become by far the most well known, the most popular, and from what I can tell, it is the original, the OG long exposure app for iPhone. So if it's the most well known, the most popular, and it's been around the longest, it must also be the best. Right? To find out, I went to Blackpool, famous for being the only town in England with consistently good weather, and the perfect place to explore slow shutter cam. So let's get to it. First of all, despite having a multitude of shooting modes, features and settings, it's all presented in a very optimized and efficient way, so the interface never feels overcrowded even on tiny devices. And you're never more than a tap or two away from anything, which is really indicative of an app that's had 10 plus years to refine its design and workflow. So let's see that workflow in action. You compose your shot, choose the amount of blurriness, choose the capture time, set your ISO, then focus, expose, tap the shutter, the timer will count down, and then you just enjoy watching your long exposure take shape, and you can stop it at any time. And a few things unique to slow shutter cam that really add to its fun factor is how you're able to resume your capture once you've stopped it. So you can build on what you've already captured, which allows you to get extra creative. You can also keep an eye on what's happening in real time, and once your capture has finished, you have a built-in editor that allows you to modify the effects. And finally, if a single long exposure isn't enough, then you can use the built-in intervalometer to create some really cool long exposure time lapses. Finally, as I was capturing light trails, I noticed that I was missing cars driving past because every time a capture finished, slow shutter cam would ask me what I wanted to do. Do I want to edit, clear, or save? But this workflow isn't appropriate for all situations, so thankfully you can come into the settings and change it. And speaking of light trails themselves, they can be quite disappointing in apps like this because instead of being smooth, continuous rivers of light like in real long exposures, they can often be quite janky. They can look like Morse code, as I've called it in the past, which is where you can see the gaps in the individual frames. But for the most part, when it's dark enough, slow shutter cam's light trails actually look really good. And because of the way these slow shutter apps work, I'm not expecting perfection. All I want is something that at least resembles a continuous line, and slow shutter cam regularly delivers. And when it doesn't, it's usually because there's still too much light around or the ISO is in auto. I had a particularly good time using slow shutter cam's light trails to create this photo that you may have seen on my Instagram. I originally wanted to create a cool silhouette of me standing still and then use a toy lightsaber to paint in the background around me, but I couldn't find one on short notice, so instead I used this light behind me to paint the background, and I used this child's skipping rope that lights up to fill myself in, if you like. I whipped it across the camera, and I think it turned out pretty cool. And stick around to the end if you want to see how I created the thumbnail for this video as well. So with slow shutter cam, you get an optimized, efficient, extremely stable, reliable, versatile and fun slow shutter app, and I can really see why it's been so beloved over the past 10 years. And better yet, all of this long exposure goodness costs just £1.99, making slow shutter cam an absolute bargain. But the best? Well, It really depends on you and what you want to capture. For example, slow shutter cam performed brilliantly here in Blackpool with these choppy tides and moving trams, and it's the only app that I could have used to achieve this double exposure effect. But for me, these are novelty situations that I've specifically captured for the review. I'm not capturing this sort of stuff on most days. Instead, I can usually be found by a body of water of some kind, or sat in a field using a 3, 5 or 10-minute exposure to capture really slow moving clouds, because apparently I'm 80 years old and a slow shutter cam is just not appropriate for that. See, it's not appropriate if you're 80 years old, that's what I'm trying to say, clearly. It's great with shorter capture times, like between 1 and 8 seconds, but once you go past that, slow shutter cam's motion blur just kind of stops. Whereas Even Longer and Moment will continue to capture the entire movement across the frame. So I'll personally be sticking with Even Longer for its raw capture, its frame averaged motion blur, and its bracketing. And I will keep slow shutter cam around in my app library though, for those times when the mood takes me and I feel like creating some cool double exposure motion light trails, and this is what that means. Now, I am not saying that Even Longer is better than Moment or Even Longer is better than slow shutter cam, because while they all offer long exposure functionality, they are 3 completely different apps with different features at different price points, all aimed at different people with different needs. Just saying for those who need to hear it. And that is my review of slow shutter cam, and it has been fun to make, genuinely, because it's been on my phone, my iPhone for, I downloaded it on the 16th of November 2018, and it's been a staple on my iPhone since then, and it's been my go-to slow shutter app up until very, very recently. I named it as the best slow shutter app in my 2020 App of the Year awards, and I highly recommended it in one of the first videos I ever made when I started to do YouTube consistently, which was like a comparison of the best and worst long exposure apps. So I'm very happy to be able to give it a positive review, and I'm sure it'll be successful and it'll stay strong well into the next decade. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay curious, and peck around. Okay, if you're still here, it means you want to see how I created the thumbnail. And it's easy. It's not like I'm some sort of innovative photographer or anything. It's very simple. You set slow shutter cam up, and I got my skipping rope. 1 second. Yep. Very good, very good. And put it around the iPhone's lens, set the exposure going, and then just like moved it towards me. Of course, ISO set to not auto, like the lowest it'll go, and I think it was like a 4 or 8 second exposure, something like that. I do have the footage of me doing it, so I could be wrong about the exposure time, but you'll see anyway. And then I think it came out, and then I just twisted it like that, and I didn't get it in the first go. No, don't even. it was a few goes that it took to get it, and I wanted the reflection in my glasses, which kind of turned out, I'm sure, over time. And if I did have, I'm not blaming my tools, but if I did have the lightsaber thing, I think I could have got the shot I actually wanted, which I was inspired to get from this little thing in the App Store, with the guy and the lights in the background. So I want to do something similar but different at the same time, but I wasn't able to quite get there. So this is the final shot that I ended up with, but maybe one day I will create it. So thank you for watching, and that's it. So, for example, slow shutter cam. What, am I Dutch now? Okay, people ask me, am I German, am I Dutch, am I Romanian? No, from Manchester. Mankin proud, baby. Right. For example, slow shutter cam performed brilliantly. The bloopers are going to be good for this one. So with slow shutter cam, you get an optimized, efficient, comprehensive, extremely stable, versatile, reliable, and fun camera app. Damn it. Slow shutter app. One more time, let's go. Hi folks, David here. Obviously, you can see that. Now, if you've watched until this point in the video, first of all, thank you. And second of all, I have a question for you, specifically because you've watched until this point in the video. Now, YouTube flashed something up the other day saying, hey, Davide, do you want to offer membership? And I was like, no, not really. But then they were like, are you sure? And I was like, okay, what could I possibly offer people as a membership to this channel? And that's why I'm asking you, because if you've watched till this point, then there's a chance that you quite like the channel and you like my content. So I'm just asking just a friendly question, like if I did offer a membership, what would you like to see? The best I can come up with is behind the scenes stuff. So this right now, I'm in my pajamas and I'm editing my slow shutter cam video. That's me. This clip here, like usually, by the way, there's like tons and tons of bloopers, and I only put like maybe 1 or 2 at the end of each video. But like I record for over an hour, and it gets edited down to between like 5, 10, or 15 minutes. So what happens to all that other footage? 45 minutes of footage. Maybe you want to see it as a members only thing. So let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, and end.